And here's Dane Cook.
Okay. By the way, that's the entire special that we just showed. It's a very, very unique cut.
I actually watched your special, and it's hilarious.
Thank you very much.
Really, really funny. And you're one of the few comedians who has sold out Madison Square Garden.
It's unbelievable. You know, the first time I ever played, I used to do actually round shows. There were, I grew up in Boston, and down in Cape Cod, there was a South Shore music tent, which was like 2,500 in the round. And Carlin would play down there, and I would go down and watch some of these, incredible acts come in and do this really unique kind of setup. And some guys couldn't do it, and the guys like Carlin that could, it really appealed to me. I thought it was just a great way to kind of keep momentum going and keep an energy in the room that is unlike, standard kind of audience facing the crowd. And as I got a little bit better at it at a young age, I thought, maybe someday I'll do a special like this. And met Marty Kullner, who directed it. He also directed Carlin in the Round in '76. And I said, I want to do an In the Round show like your boy Carlin did. And he's like, all right, where? And I said, Boston Garden. And he's like, yeah, that might be a little tricky. I said, I know, that's why I'm either going out in a blaze of glory
Right.
or I'm going to try to do something in the never been done before business.
And this special you directed yourself, correct?
I did,
Okay.
yes. And
What's
I had
that
a very,
like?
very difficult time with me.
You did.
Yeah, I did not care for my attitude.
Right.
I was late quite a bit.
You had a very big rider, I
My rider, yes,
Right.
I demanded a mariachi band
Okay.
at all times. It was unique because as a comedian, when you're working on new material, it's always really about the process of, quite simply, what's funny, what feels right, what works for me, what works, keeping the integrity of the routine, what's the theme, and you kind of work through a through line in that sense. But with directing it, and even producing it, putting all my own, every shekel in this thing is mine, which is daunting. You start to want to really be collaborative with the small and mighty team that you put around you. So it was a real labor of love, and I honestly think it's the best thing I've ever done. I think it's the first time I've watched myself in a completed form, away from the theater setting or an arena or comedy club, and said that really captured all of my human emoji, if I may,
Right.
in one set. So I'm super proud of it. I'm really stoked.
And did you have to watch it a ton of times because you directed it yourself?
I did,
Okay.
yeah. And I'm sitting in the edit bay, and I remember after about 4 or 5 months, just turning to my editor, I was like, "How sick are you of hearing these bits and my voice?" And well, that's kind of a testament too of like you start to really know if the material is going to live. Because you can film a great show, and it just won't translate sometimes. You'll see comedians that you like go on a late night show, and you'll be like, I don't know, something was just missing tonight. There has to be something in that, in the air that night that allows you to capture a little bit of magic, so it'll translate when people see it at home or on a movie screen. And I nailed it here. I feel really, really psyched.
And when you're in the edit bay, 4 or 5 months in, are you still laughing at your own jokes?
No, I don't
Do you
think I
ever
ever
laugh
really.
at your own jokes
I
when
think
you're
I only
watching
laugh
this?
at my own jokes on stage.
Okay.
That's you're pretty sometimes because it's I'm hearing some of those things for the first time myself. A lot of improv goes into how I build a set. And so I think that sometimes when people see me or see a comic reacting, truly it's because when you're in the moment and you're enjoying what you do, that's the whole point, is not to be so serious about what I do. It's like I'm having a good time up there. It's whimsical. It's it's playtime. And so sometimes when you're discovering things in the moment, you can't help but find that notion to be amusing, and you hope that people want to grab onto it, and it'll be something people will want to quote for years to come.
Right. How long does it take to put together a set that?
40 years.
Okay.
A very, very long
Right.
incubation
Your
process.
entire life. Right. Exactly.
How long? I've got it pretty much down now to where I'm on like a 1.5 to 2 year cycle. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to work on the material for a full year. I want to be able to put together where I want to do it, and then I want to give the post a little time so I can get great, artwork and whatever else needs to be in there. So 1.5 to 2, I'd like to, be on that kind of rhythm.
And coming up with a title for your special, like Troublemaker, is that challenging?
Well, you really want to. For this, it was not so challenging because I knew that I wanted the title to have kind of like a dual persona, which was number one. I knew that the routine. I start off this show by saying, 60% of the relationships that come in here tonight, I'm going to destroy, and I do. And I've gotten the emails, and I've gotten the people who've come up to me after shows and said, "Yeah, we broke up after that." After that show.
And does that make you happy, or
yeah,
it
does, because then because then I'm like, you know what? Now you can move on. You guys weren't meant to be together. It was not a simpatico, and now you can go on to be with the person that you're meant to be with. And honestly, I also have gotten the opposite. I've had people come up to me after the shows or after a show like this and say, all the checklists of things that you said would cause us to capsize. We were right as rain on all of them. So at the same time, I've had people, come up and say, "We're married now. We met at your show, and the things that you said are cool." And then I've had people end relationships violently and in a tumultuous fashion because of some of the routines. But such is life, is what I say.
Well, I was really curious watching the special.
My own relationship broke up after this special, so I pretty much did it to myself.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
I'm not ready to.
Okay.
I'm still in a lot of pain, but trust me, she looked at me and was like, a lot of these things, is that me? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, were you basically, I remember one day, I knew I was in trouble with this relationship, and any relationship that a comic's in where my girl looked at me one day while I was kind of, just staring across the room, and she goes, "Are you watching me or are you observing me?" And that was pretty much the beginning of the end. I'm as a comedian, I'm probably observing you, and it's going to end up in the routine. So yes, even my own relationship, a lot of what probably caused its demise is in this special.
After she saw the edited version, or when it was live?
I think it was doomed from the beginning,
Okay.
Marshall.
Okay.
To be honest with you,
Okay.
I think that right out of the gate, it was not serendipity.
Okay.
And some things just don't last,
Right.
So you learn our lessons, and I'm glad that at least I could get some great comedy out of it.
Right. I was wondering if you've seen Gone Girl, because your comedy is a lot about relationships, and
did.
really. Tell me what you thought.
Well, yes, of course, you're hoping that you're not with a socio/psychopath.
Correct. Yeah.
That's not exactly going to be a great road trip. But I thought that the movie, it didn't incite anything, for me to talk about within my comedy routine, but I thought that the movie was like really dense and kind of cool. A lot of twists and turns. I don't want to give away the ending for anybody here who hasn't seen it, but everyone dies.
Right. Right.
Well, just a little bit inside, just
Right.
not literally.
Talk about your social media presence and
Okay.
Using technology.
I'm on MySpace.
Okay. Yes.
I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to stay in there and go down with the ship.
Yeah.
And couldn't have laughed at that one. Not even a half laugh. Thanks. All right. Nice talking to you. Social networking, very important. I came up, I found my fans that way. My whole, I used to like punk bands, and I was watching documentaries about punk bands and how they broke through. And I was really moved at how tenacious they were, a lot of them, and how they wanted to find fans that were unique to them. So they would just like kind of go around the town and hang up their posters on, telephone poles and staple them. And I remember watching that one day in 1998 or 99. And I was like, I had an epiphany. I was like, that's what I'm going to do with the internet. I'm just going to hang my own little flyer on each and every forum and chat room. And I'm going to, make fans like grassroots, political style, shaking hands one at a time. And by the way, this sounds crazy now, but there was a good chunk of 4 or 5 years where the internet was really fun.
Right. No, I remember
it was
that. Yeah.
really awesome. There was very little negativity. If somebody wrote a negative comment, when I first, people would be like, "What?" Everyone would freak out. And there was not a lot of caustic energy in there. It was honestly if you sent a link, people were like, "Thanks for the link." Wow, I'm going to watch all of it. And so I would go into any kind of, I'd go into any kind of forum, whether it was somebody trying to, build how to build a house or, Lamaze class, pregnancy. I went into every forum, and I would spend 23 hours a day for years talking, trying to make people laugh in those groups, and then posting links to my comedy clips. And that's how I really got the snowball effect with the comedy.
And so technology really helped you find things to laugh about and be funny about, but at the same
Sure.
time helped your sort of presence and your celebrity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If Hollywood isn't gonna put me there, if they're not gonna don me with the Excalibur or whatever, I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm at least gonna make a living, and I'm gonna pay the rent.
Right.
Little did I know it was gonna turn into something that I'd hoped it would turn into, which was like a tsunami.
Right.
It just kept building and building and building, and I kept playing into it. I was not relenting. I thought if more people are interested in seeing me, then I'm going to fill Madison Square Garden someday.
And so you taught yourself how to do it. You didn't have people.
Oh, man, I learned HTML code. Dude, I could reformat your hard
Right,
drive. I was
right.
defragging shit.
Right,
I was
right.
good, man. I was good. I really spent a lot of time understanding the ins and outs of computers. And what's really funny too is like I knew very, very early on I was just so into Apple stuff, and I was into Mac, and I was the first one of my friends that was really into all that stuff, and they're all like, "What? You're into?" And they still called it Macintosh, which just annoyed me. Early adopter. You can give me some freebies for the plug, by the way, if anybody wants to throw an adapter my way on the way out. You always need a new one of those suckers. So I embraced it. I never was shy about doing it, the same way I was never shy about doing meet and greets and wanting to meet people and understand who I was getting to. A lot of comics would do the show, skulk in the back, kind of like be, anti, it's like, no, I don't mingle with the people. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to know who my fans were and figure out how to make it.
Uh-huh. And I think we have a clip about you and technology.
Oh,
and
okay.
Maybe
Let's see how this
see
clip
it?
is. Roll the clip.
Okay. What kinds of things are you finding really funny right now? Movies, TV, people
Tinder.
on Twitter? You are.
Tinder's hilarious. I'm on Tinder. I had to do it.
Have you met a lot of ladies on Tinder?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's unbelievable. It's kind of wild. Well, first of all, Tinder, you guys are on. Well, nobody admits this. I've learned this. I've been talking about Tinder on stage, and nobody admits they're on Tinder.
Really?
Everybody's
I feel
on
like,
Tinder.
it's a bigger LA thing than New York.
Really? No,
I think
man.
so.
I'm
I think
on it.
so.
There's a lot
I'm
of
not
people
saying
on
there's
Tinder.
not a lot
here.
of people on Tinder in New York, but it's
Okay.
like I feel like it's more happening in LA. 'Cause it's so hard to meet
okay.
people there.
I don't know. I'm going to crunch some numbers, man,
Okay.
because
Crunch them.
there's a, you go to the settings on Tinder,
Yeah.
and basically you can choose like what age demo am I? Okay, like
Totally.
18 to, and it stops at 44,
Right.
which is really sad.
Yes.
Tinder's basically said, listen, if you're over 44, you're just dead. You have no business looking for hookups or. And then you can choose the distance. You can slide a little bar, 50 miles
Right.
or 30 miles. So I went in there. First thing I did is I changed the age range I was interested in from 18 to 19. And then I changed the distance to 50 feet.
Okay.
I'm on the move, man.
Yeah.
I got to. I am fascinated though with how it's people want things. We're like a now society, and that's even in terms of our relationships, which is you have to let that grow. That's something it has to be organic and it has to take time, and yet we are not even satisfied with that. There's got to be a fast track to meeting somebody and hanging out. So I'm kind of at the beginning of that little chunk, and expanding on it now.
There's even like a Jewish Tinder now.
Well, they have J-Date?
Yes. Well, no, there's a Tinder specifically.
For just-
yes.
okay.
And there's a thing that you can check if you're willing to convert. Even. It's
Okay, I
interesting.
wonder what
Yes.
it's called. Happy Dreidel or something like
Something
that?
like that. Have you ever pretended to be someone else on Tinder
Have I pretended to be some...
and kind of communicated with people as a
no,
joke?
because people don't believe it's me anyway, because
Right.
I put my own stuff
Right? Is that
on
a
there.
problem? The people are like, "Are you really Dane Cook?"
Yeah, it's a problem.
Okay.
It's a problem because they don't believe it's me, and that's very frustrating when I'm like, no, trust me, it's me. And then a girl the other night was like, it's not you. And I was like, it is. I go to my Instagram page, and in the comments, put a little emoji of lips, and then I'll put a little emoji of a balloon. And that's the way I verify.
Why?
I'm like a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
The things we do for love, Marsh.
Right.
The things we do for love.
It's tough out there.
No, I had to prove to that I was real in order to
And did
really
that work?
mine.
The lips and the balloon.
It did.
Emoji?
Yeah, because
Okay.
then
And
she was
she's
like, wow, it is you.
Okay.
And then I could really start, because the only way with comedy that you can ever really, really figure out what's what is you got to get in there. You got to mix it up. The same way like when I was a young comic, if I wanted to do a thing about amusement parks, I had to go hang out and go into observational mode and just walk around like a probe droid, just looking at everything. That's a Star Wars reference for all you nerds. And really, absorb. And it's the same way with technology. I can't opine about something that I know nothing about. So the way that I'm getting into it is just, and it's funny that it's me. I'm getting in even a different, skew of the material because I'm on it and people's reactions. But yeah, that's how you got to do it. You just got to get in and mix it up so you can find the funny.
And then do you get to the point on Tinder where you have no more matches?
I do. And then
do?
I just click it to 18 to 20.
Okay.
And then I go to 100 feet.
Okay.
And I just keep expanding the
Right.
world, sir.
Okay, it's true. Yeah.
I love that you know the
I mean,
rigmarole, too.
we all know what Tinder.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I
why
got
not?
it.
Yeah, but did she? And so, couldn't that girl have said like, "Oh, but maybe somebody else runs your Instagram account"?
Yes, and
Okay.
initially I wasn't even using the Tinder as a means of like personally, having a parry thrust with people. I just wanted to get a parry thrust. It's
Okay.
the back and forth
Right.
or fencing
Okay. Yes.
terms. Sorry, I thought we were in a fencing conversation.
Okay. Sorry.
It's really at first I had it set to men and women, and I just let it free fly because I
Okay.
thought more people will see the ad. I just put a poster for. I was using it
interesting.
like I've always used social networking
To promote yourself.
to promote.
Yes.
I use everything for promotion.
Right.
If I can have a little dalliance with a beautiful woman as a young single man in America, I'm not going to say no to that.
Right.
But at the same time, my initial point was to try to reach as many people through this kind of trendy new thing.
And so is your Tinder photo right now a poster for Friday's Showtime special?
No, it's me with my shirt off.
Okay.
The poster is 3 whisks later because if you just put the poster up, nobody's gonna look at that.
Right.
People are gonna be like, "Oh, what is this crap? It's an ad."
Yeah, they think
so I had to
Showtime
put
bought it
yes,
for-
I had
yeah.
honestly, it's like I know the system now. I know how to beat the system, and you got to like tease people into it, and then you can show them, and they go, "Oh, damn it, he got me." Now I may or may not watch the special.
Got it. Anything else you've been finding funny besides Tinder?
What have I been speaking about lately? Love, actually.
Just recently.
I think the next special might be called Just Love. Because I have
love or love?
just love. The word love.
Okay.
I have a whole new chunk. I'll work on it for the next year. I was running it down at the Comedy Cellar and the Comedy Underground for the last couple of weeks, and something's working when it works in New York City. And it worked fantastically. I got about 30 minutes, and it's all in and about what real love is, and then ways to identify when you're really not in it. And it's pretty harrowing, but it's also kind of uplifting. It's different. It's a different take from maybe what you're seeing in Troublemaker.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
With Troublemaker, people don't realize that I did it over 2 nights.
Okay.
And this was kind of wild because I'd always had a corporate partner in my past. I always worked with like Comedy Central or HBO.
Or Tinder.
Or well, they've never ponied up any cash
Okay.
for one of the specials, but I'm always open for a roundtable conversation. And so the goal was to put up the money for it and then to film it over 2 nights. And then what you do is you try to like piece together some chunks and try to figure out what works when. So the Friday night show comes around, and it was a debacle. It was really everything that could have gone wrong on this show did. It was like every sound issue. I had weird things where people were getting up and moving around during the show. People were late getting into the show, and they demanded so they busted through the doors. It was just anything and everything that could have gone wrong. And I knew within a few minutes in my head, I'm like, this is scrapped. This is not going to.
But can you read? Can you kind of
Can I read? Yes.
No. Can you
I just learned.
I couldn't find the
Marshall.
word for a second. Can you pull the train back and get it back on its course when you know something is going sort of off?
Yes, you can always do that, but it's very different as a performer once you're cognizant of the cameras.
Okay.
It's really tricky to put yourself back entirely in your body, and it's always been the biggest difficulty for anybody who's recording a special ever in the history of comics. Whenever I talk to people, and I've talked to them one-on-one, like, I love that special, and when I get the inside scoop, they'll say, oh, I really hate it. And you always hear the real deal because nothing beats that organic, nobody knows about this but me and the crowd that I'm in on this given night. You need to capture something. And the Friday night show, it like I said, it just, I was in my head going, this isn't it. My energy changed. I just knew that everything that I wanted to accomplish immediately in that show was not going to work. And I woke up the next morning, and I was in my hotel room, and I remember sitting at breakfast, by myself, kind of, thinking about the day and what I needed to accomplish. And then I realized, having the first show completely unusable, I was like, if this doesn't work tonight, and I've invested, all this money into basically a home video that nobody's ever going to want to see. I'm going to have the most expensive home video of a mediocre comedy set. And I'd never had that feeling before in 24 years of doing comedy, of real pressure that I'd never felt before. There's always somebody else, they're going to record me, and if it doesn't work, we'll go somewhere else. And this was like do or die. And the Saturday night show was the best show I'd had on stage in like 2 or 3 years. I just, through happenstance, everything lined up that night. And but funny enough is when I went into the edit bay and I finally pieced together the show, my editor was like, "Do you want to watch Friday?" I was like, "No, delete it. It stinks." And he's like, "I don't know, man. I watched it. You should probably watch it. There's something really interesting happening there." And I did. And what was interesting is Friday night, because I got out of my head about how I thought it should be, there was a tone and a mood that is more me than I've ever captured on film. It's me in a nightclub.
Looser or
looser? There was a little bit more. I could be a little more terse sometimes, where I like to be. I could be, because I'm pretty random. I like being silly. I like being, effervescent and up. But I also, like most comics, like when I go dark, I can get pretty, lascivious sometimes, and that was in there. And so as I started to watch Friday, what you're really going to see is there's a lot of Friday that I used, because you never normally as a person producing something like this would probably pick that as the material. You go, no, get the stuff that killed, get the stuff that got the biggest laugh. And this was more of like, no, I'm going to give you the stuff that shows you more of me in a wider scale.
Should we take another look at another clip?
What do you think? You guys want to see another clip? The people have their say.
Okay.
That's a rant.
Yeah.
That's what we call a rant.
Can you even remember a time when you were making jokes about things that weren't about texting or computers or like the internet?
I do. I mean, this was really the first kind of tech savvy, because a lot has changed. We're heading towards the singularity, Marshall. It's happening.
Right.
And so, yeah, no, to me, it felt like the right time to talk about that kind of hybrid of real life and relationships, the way we communicate. And I brought a girl. The way that bit actually came from is I brought a girl that I was dating to Hawaii, and we were sitting on a beach, and she didn't bring her head up from her phone hardly at all. It was gorgeous. Our first day there, we're sitting on a beach, and I was like, "What are you texting?" And she showed me, and she was texting emojis of ocean, sun, palm trees. She wasn't looking at any of it, but she was telling all her friends what was, in and around. And so I just thought it was really wild. It definitely informed how I wanted this special to go.
Was she 18 or 19?
She was 22. I had to click the... no, she was, like 30 years old, but still, that's like, people love their emojis. People are all using emojis all the time.
And how much longer did that last?
Probably till the end of the trip.
Okay.
That was pretty much it. That was the end of that relationship.
Okay. Are you watching anything on television right now?
The Nick.
The Nick. You like
It's my favorite show on TV. If you're not watching The Nick, you are missing out.
Why do you like it so much?
Just because I love the era. It's set like in the turn of the century, 1900s, for medicine, and you're kind of watching these doctors try to figure out how to cure things that are so common and easy now. They invent the X-ray machine, but they don't know you have to have like a lead vest on, so they're all just like standing in front of it like as a joke for an hour and a half, and the acting is just outstanding. The comedy side a lot of people know, but as an actor, I'm really interested in working with dynamic people like
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen, yeah.
Steven Soderbergh.
Children of Men. It's like
Yes.
one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think we're going to open it up to a Q&A to the audience.
Okay.
Hi. You said that one way to find the funny is to get out there yourself. What's something that has surprised you?
Right. Well, I think that the one thing that that's pretty much a regular experience for me now is it's a very different once you've made it, once you've crossed over and people know who you are, they feel like they have a piece of you. And so it's really difficult sometimes to hone and craft material without somebody really impeding on it. Meaning like you're in a moment going like, okay, this is, I'm observing this, I'm living this moment. And then you kind of know that somebody wants to put their stamp on your perspective. And so sometimes I like to be more voyeuristic. I think that's why the tech stuff was interesting to me, because so much of that takes place, kind of like behind closed doors. And the more I looked for the pulp in that, and I kind of interviewed people and talked to younger people and older people who really didn't quite understand it, it was easier for me with that kind of material to really craft it and get it to where I need to be. I think that a lot of the stuff that takes place in my own relationships and things that happen like in my friendships, or some of the things that even ended up in the special, some of them are a result of because people know me, and I'm not a regular guy. I'm not a regular 9-to-5 guy, and so that also turns into interesting materials. Like my own life, it's like Truman Show. Sometimes just who I am affects the climate of where I'm at, and it's weird for me. I'm a pretty I'm a pretty shy person by nature, or introverted, and yet once I get on a stage, it all kind of goes away. So that's a little bit crazy from where I'm at now. I hope that answered your question, because I really didn't think I did, but I did the best I could to fill the time.
I'm wondering who are some guys that you see killing it at like Comedy Cellar, those places down on McDougal Street that haven't made that leap yet, and what do you think contributes to that, or what did you see sort of give you that momentum?
Well, I was on the show actually with a lot of hammers, guys that come in and were Louis was in there that night. Colin Quinn was in there working on his new material. I think the last two, the special and the show that Colin put out was like just remarkable, like really next level. But there's some guys that I've seen in and around LA. I think there's like a great new kind of squad of guys that are coming up. I like this guy Brent Moore, and he's really funny. I like his perspective on things. I've always liked Amy Schumer, and I like seeing not only how her show broke through, but like where her stand-up is going to go now. So, but the shows this last couple of weeks were, I was just kind of surrounded by people that earn their stripes, and now they come down there and they get to you get to work on new stuff in and around some pretty great people.
Do you end up going to see a lot of stand-up on your nights off, or just when you're working?
I don't. No, if I'm not in a club, usually working on my own stuff, I don't usually hang down there. But I do spend quite a bit of time, especially that first year of whatever you're delving into. It's a 7-night-a-week job, and when I'm in New York, like I did, I think 6 shows the other night. And if I'm in LA, there's not as many clubs, but I want to bounce around, try to get like 3 sets a night. And if I could do 3 sets of like 40 a night, then I'll try to do that. I try to be on for a couple of hours a night somewhere. And what's cool about New York is you can actually, and I used to do this a lot when I was living here, and I would do 6 or sometimes even 12 shows in a night. I would book from the earliest shows till middle of the night, and sometimes like college stuff in the afternoon. If I could go do like cafeteria show, way back, I would do that. And you could take a new piece of material, a new 5-7 minute chunk, and polish it. And by the end of the night, it was done. In one night, you could have a brand new piece of material and just put that in the shoebox until you needed it.
And are there tricks for sustaining your energy over the course of the evening? Like
heroin,
okay.
Actually. I do a lot of heroin. I shoot it in the web of my foot.
Okay.
And the trick is living a lifestyle, I think, that is going to help you to maintain and keep your energy level up. I know in my own personal life, I had some real trials after, my folks got sick. They passed away of cancer. I lost both my parents to cancer within 9 months. And it was like an impossible time, and needed to work on my family, needed to, go through the grieving process. But I still found myself wanting to get on stage. I still found that, being on stage and working on that, even through there, was cathartic and helped me to get to where I am now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Okay, look at you crawling around all over.
So with the political climate that it is right now, and you see more comedians getting in trouble for certain jokes that they're putting out there, you see radio hosts getting released from their jobs and things like that, for making seemingly comedic to their audiences. Do you find yourself having to censor yourself in jokes that you're coming up with, or how do you deal with that climate change that seems to be going on?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, first and foremost, I'm certainly not a political comic, and I have an opinion. Sometimes I will show those on stage, but for the most part, I enjoy entertainment that's about kind of escapism and observational. And I also think there's a lot of guys who do it way, 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 way better than I ever could. So I wouldn't enter that space. That being said, I think that it's really tricky. Sometimes when you're working under a major corporate umbrella, they're the boss and they've hired you, and there has to be kind of like, you have to acquiesce sometimes back and forth and be able to give each other the ability to like be the artist and then be the money people, be the boss. And yet, I would tell comics coming up now that you have to keep the integrity. You have to go into that room and not worry about who's watching or where you might end up. If you really want to be a true artist and comedian artist, then you might have to forgo all that stuff just in order to have the ability to have 100% of what you want to say, be shared on that stage. The thing about comedy that really just trips me out is that it's like the only place left really that you can get complete truth from a person. Pretty much anywhere else you can have somebody standing over your shoulder, standards and practices, or some editor or somebody upstairs in a sound booth. Always. But you can go to a comedy club and you can sit there and listen to something directly from my brain to your ears without anybody impeding. I think that's that's glamorous to me. That's like to be protected. I always, get nervous of the day where there's going to be a billboard, on a green screen behind that stage for like, Tide or something else, because I still think you want to be able to go into a comedy club and exactly like you're saying, hear somebody, get caustic and get all wrong and come at something, with the language and being irreverent without somebody else telling you how you can hear your information, So I say comics got to get up there and speak from the heart, even if it's going to get them in a little trouble.
How you doing, man? My name is Brandon.
Pleasure.
Speaking of, the integrity, point of view that, comics need to have in order to really, make their living the way they want to make it. Your friend or associate, I don't know how close you were exactly, but the late, great Patrice O'Neal, man. I mean, I know you guys, were cool with each other, man.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know whether or not, like, how far do you think that he would have made it if he had lived, he'd be, if he was alive today?
Patrice O'Neal, if you don't know Patrice O'Neal, he was, we call him a one-of-a-kind. I came up with Patrice. I started with him in Boston. I remember seeing him the first night walk into Stitch's Comedy Club, and he made an immediate impact on me, not just because he was, large and he was a big guy, and he kind of commanded people's attention, but there was something he emulated that I immediately knew. I think Patrice could have gone as far as Patrice wanted to go. And that's really what it came down to with him. And I think the things that he did do that you can, peep out and find online and download, he could certainly be, come across as misogynistic. And some people have tried to, deconstruct him, I think, too much. But he had an amazing heart. He was a great guy. And the time I spent on the road with him, I brought him out on the road with me quite a bit when I was fortunate enough to get some headlining gigs so I could throw a little money in his pocket. But more, it was just to spend time. I actually was afraid to bring him on the road because I knew he'd blow me off the stage. And most of the nights I was going to have to work way, way harder than I wanted to get him back. But I brought him anyway because I loved him and I wanted to hang out with him. And I just wanted to, spend that time. So I truly believe he's one of the greats, and I think that I hope more stuff of his comes out, and I think that he's going to have his place in the annals of comedy history. Yeah.
Basically,
Part 2.
This part is going to be real short.
No.
Basically, do you still wish you had the ability to spit venom? I remember that first.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. I still, I have a fantastical imagination. I tend to put a lot of that into some of the other stuff that I'm working on. I got a few things that I'm conjuring up in terms of where I write, and but I think a lot of the stand-up now, and again, it's reflected in Troublemaker, is I've grown up with a generation of comedy fans, and I'm not going to be derivative and kind of do what I did before, but that's all still within me. So whether that comes out in the script that I'm writing now, or a children's book or something down the road, I'm interested in pulling that stuff out of my creative side of my cerebellum. So we'll see. It's located near the limbic system. I know a little about the brain.
Hi, Dane. Big fan of planes. Big fan of Dusty Crop Popper.
I love
How
this
did
guy.
you develop the voice for Dusty Crop Popper? And what was it like working with John Lasseter and all the crew at Disney? And is there going to be a Planes 3? And the other part of the question I want to ask, for
need a
Dan in
pen.
real life, what is Steve Carell like from your point of view?
Those were great questions, all 6. I think it was 4, actually. And I'm going to go right down the list. Okay, first of all, the voice of Dusty Crop Hopper, he's talking about Disney's Planes. I got to do both 1 and Fire and Rescue. It's my voice. I wanted to do a crazy, wacky voice. I, told John Lasseter, I'm like, I got a voice. I'm gonna do. And he was like, No, we just want your voice. We just want it to be really you and have what we're looking for in your unique sounding voice. And I don't know if there's going to be a third one. Nobody's told me. And John Lasseter is a modern day, Disney. He's a genius. He's, if there was a camera pointing inside his brain, I think that you would see some remarkable notions going on in there. And I can't tell you that in my career, there's a few things that I'll always look at and say, man, if nothing else, I got to host Saturday Night Live. I got to play Carnegie Hall. I got to play Madison Square Garden. And I got to work with John Lasseter. And The Incredibles is one of my favorite movies. So I hope that answers all your questions. Steve Carell's a bastard. Don't let that smile fool you when he's in the public eye, all right? That sweaty son of a bitch. No, he's a great man, and I got to work with him on Dan in Real Life, and he couldn't have been more pleasant. I'm glad to call him my movie brother for the rest of my life. All right.
All right, first of all, I'm from Buffalo, New York, so
All
you
right.
can thank me for this past Sunday.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Bad game.
That was bad.
Bad. Anyways, so huge Twitter follower. I think you do a great job. You make me laugh every day, at least at some point. So I want to thank you for that. What's on the horizon? What's next? A big tour from this special, hopefully Buffalo, maybe.
It's all Buffalo. It's a
All
Buffalo
Buffalo.
tour.
We
We're
got
gonna
to
go
get our
block to
name out
block.
there, Buffalo, New York.
Yep. I'm just going to be me at a kiosk, and I'm just going to be
With buffalo wings.
Buffalo wings. I got a lot of Buffalo wing jokes I'm going to be doing. A couple of things that are in the pipeline. First of all, an international tour is something that I've been putting together, and I'm really excited to talk about that a little bit down the road. It'll also include domestic dates, but more film stuff. Actually, my company, we've developed a couple of things. I have one film that we finished called that executive produced called 400 Days. It's a psychological thriller. It's kind of in the vein of like Mr. Brooks or even like a Dan in Real Life. It's a little different, and it's really interesting. Matt Osterman directed that and wrote it, and it's really, really cool. And then another comedy, maybe possibly that I'll be directing. I got the bug. Once I finish this, I've become very quickly very good friends with Jerry Lewis over the last couple of years through a series of very fortunate events. And he's become a mentor of mine. I communicate with him quite a bit. And, this is the guy that, directed, wrote, produced everything. He made his career and everything that he did with Dino and all that stuff was, really because he believed in himself. And he's given me a lot of food for thought in how I can now go about, being closer to my own vision and things that I want to create. So I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see, on the tail of this, more of less of the kind of comedies I did before, which I kind of stepped into last minute. They were like, we got this thing, and it's, you're a guy, you're magic, you've got to kiss a girl, they get married. It was always something I came into late that, was a blast and, it could help me pay the rent. But now it's taking my time and doing things that are more like, from the Petri dish all the way up to, when we'll get a release at some point. So stay tuned. Thanks, man.
Well, let's give a round of applause to Dane Cook.
And Marshall.
And everybody has to tune into a special on Friday night on Showtime or watch it on demand, maybe?
Yeah, Showtime anytime as well. I know they're covering it, and so I'm sure it'll be everywhere in a minute. But if you want to see it Friday, you got to tune into Showtime.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank